Yo, what's good everyone, it's Baz from Sidereal. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some melodic beats from scratch. And yeah, I've got Keyscape loaded up, just a simple piano. I can set my BPM to 168 and we'll make a melody. So yeah, I'm just going to start off with a simple chord. I'm working in B minor, so oh no, what's happened here then? Let's go off and not do this one. Okay, so we got a pretty simple chord progression. So what I'm going to do is just add some filler notes, just to carry the chords over. For the second half of this melody, I'm just going to add on to the chords to make it a bit different. So for the last chords, these ones here, the ones on the fourth bars, I'm just going to add some notes just before they start over again. If
that makes no sense, I'm not sure if it does, but you'll see what I mean.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just hit Shift D to shorten all the notes, so they sound like this now. And for this one here, this note here, I'm just going to turn into a chord. Okay, so that sounds good. I'm just going to add a top layer. And again, I'm just going to duplicate these top layers, and then while holding Alt and left clicking them, I'm just going to drag them shorter and then drag them over and makes this effect. Okay, so I'm just going to replace the piano with Omnisphere, and we're just going to find some decent bells. So I found this patch called ESS 170 Electric Piano 2, and it sounds quite good on its own. I've just shortened the delay and the decay and the release, so it sounds like this. It sounds kind of cool, but we need to layer more sounds. So I found this ARP in Taz Taylor's Full Art Bank. I've just turned off the arpeggiator, and again I just turned down the decay and the release on both of the sounds, and it sounds like this. I think it needs some kind of pad or something, so I'm just going to go to Electro X. Okay, so I was looking for a pad, but I found this key in Koala Beats' saturation kit called Forgiven, and it sounds like a nice soft bell, so it will act as a good layer. But we need something to give the chords a bit of extra punch, so I'm still going to look for that. Okay, so I found these keys from my boy Noto's pack, and I've just copied the chords over, and this is what that sounds like. It's just to give it a bit of extra punch. So what I'm going to do is just randomize all these velocities with R, and I'm just going to hit Control A to select them all. I'm just going to bring them down. And I'm going to do that with every pattern. Alright, now we've finished all the melodies, this is what they all sound like together. Okay, and now we're just going to add some simple drums on there because the melody is enough on its own, so it doesn't need crazy drums. One thing I always do when I'm working in a certain scale is I always make sure that the drums are actually on key. I know a lot of people don't do this, but it does make them sound better, especially if you got percussion and toned sort of drums like that. So yeah, I recommend doing that. So what I've done is I've just added some bottom notes to the hi-hats, and the only rolls that I'm going to do are going to be at the end of the second bar. I'm hitting Alt-U to get up the chopper. Doing the same thing to this one, hitting Alt-U. Just taking out that lot. Control L to lengthen them all, and yeah, this is what they sound like now. One thing for your 808s is always turn on the envelope and then turn the attack all the way down, hold all the way up, and everything else all the way down. Depending on what 808 it is, you can mess with the release knob. Obviously, the more release, the longer the 808's gonna play. So we're just gonna follow the bass notes for this. I'm going to use a different 808 because I don't like the way it sounded with the beat. Okay, so the beat's done, and I know some of you have been asking for a mixing tutorial. I'm sure Magnolia will do something like that. I'm just going to do a quick one for you now and show you what I do. So again, on the channel rack, I'm just double clicking, right click, and then coming over to the mixer channel and hitting Control Shift L, and then all I'm going to do is just EQ and process these. So you see here on the EQ2 anyway, it gives you like C1, C2, C3 to give you all your low end and your highs and your mids. I'm just going to drag this to about 100 so it leaves room for the 808. Also, this knob down here is stereo separation. I'll show you what it does now. Obviously, if you leave it blank, it's just going to sound as it was. If you drag it all the way to the right, it will be merged, so it will only be in mono. And that's what that sounds like. Doesn't sound great at all, especially for melodies. Separation sounds good, but you don't want it too separate. I usually go for anywhere between 30 and 60% or something like that. So, especially in this melody, you can see there is some low end, but it's mainly just unwanted frequencies. The main melody is playing in that mid range. So you notice how it doesn't really sound different. That's just unwanted frequencies, which will make your mix a lot more muddy if you don't take those out. You'll notice there's like a pattern with melodies. I always go at least 100 if I can. Just to leave room for the low end. So this first melody sounds kind of dry, so I'm just going to add some reverb and delay on it. I'm going to use Valhalla, but you can use Fruity Delay or whatever delay you want to. It doesn't really matter. So it sounds a lot better now. I just added this EQ just to bring down the harshness of the sounds when it hits. So all I'm doing is just lowering the highs and lowering the lows. You'll see for the EQ on the kick, I'm just taking out some of the sub bass and some of the highs. Again, merging them. I recommend merging both your kick and your 808. There's only a couple of 808s that I don't merge. That's because they sound better, stereo instead of mono. So. And again with the 808, we're just taking out a bit of the sub bass. And a bit of the highs. And for the EQ on the clap, we're literally just gonna bring down this knob here so that it hits 4 squares. Bring it down to, anywhere between 200 and 300 really, just to take out that low end that we don't want. I usually cut off my hi-hats and my open hats at around 2k. So we're doing the same thing here, just dragging this down to about 2k. And we're going to do the same for the open hats. Okay, so once we've got all these processed, we're going to highlight them all by hitting Control and dragging on the mixer channel. We're just going to bring them all down. Then what I do is I have a soft clipper. And we're going to start mixing. I start with the clap usually and bring it up to about just over 6. So about there. And then we're going to start with the 808. So I'm just leveling at the moment, just so it's, the clap doesn't drown out and the 808 doesn't drown out. So I'm just sort of measuring each one against each other. So you sort of see my 808, you can see it's sort of like clipping at 0, but that's just like for a split second. And we're going to sidechain the kick, so that doesn't really matter. All I'm looking for is it's holding it around the 6 mark. And again with the hi-hats, we're just going to bring it up just between 9 and 6. You can see when the lower notes are hitting at the same time, which is what's bringing it up. Open hats I usually do around 18. And then the clip, and then for the kick we're just going to have it clipping. And we're going to sidechain, so I'm going to click on this knob just so the track's highlighted, and then we're just going to right click on there, sidechain to this track. And we're going to add a fruity limiter. A lot of people sidechain differently. There's a lot of ways to do it on FL Studio. I'm just going to show you how I do it. So once we've got the limiter, we're just going to bring the seal up, which will mean the 808 doesn't cut past that purple line. We're going to go over to compression panel, right click on the sidechain, just hit the kick that you've got selected. I usually put my ratio to about 4:1. It doesn't have to be exact. Knee all the way up, and then bring my threshold down until I hear a difference, basically. Okay, and now it's time to level our melodies. So I'm just gonna hit the main one, the first one that we got here. Especially with drums, I have reference points. Like, obviously the 808 wants to hold on the 6, and the clap goes just above the 6. Hi-hats between 9 and 6, and so on. With melodies, it really depends on what it is. So here you can see it's sort of hitting around 15, but sometimes it might be hitting at 18, sometimes it might be hitting at 9. It takes time to get used to that leveling aspect of melodies and hearing where they're good at. So you notice I turned off the first melody just so I can level the next one, and I'm going to do the same thing. And last one, chords. I'm going to probably make these quite loud, just so it gives it the extra punch that we wanted. And then final bit of sauce, we're just going to use the first aromatic EQ. Grab the last one, the high end one, band 7, and we're just going to drag it up to I used to drag it to 3.2, but for some reason my FL doesn't allow me to go on 3.2 anymore, so 3.1 it is, I guess. And then 0.8 for band 6, and that's it. It'll sound like this. So yeah, I'm just going to lay this out now, and yeah, I'll play it for you at the end. So yeah, that's how you make sort of melodic beats in the style of little tecca and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've just added some bass and some effects on here, and yeah, I'll play it for you now. Remember to follow me on Instagram at prod.baps, follow Sidereal on Instagram at sidereal.wave. And yeah, that's it. So I'll play it for you now.
Hey yo, Babs, this shit crazy.